Alright, hey everyone, it's Andrew here from OnePlus Productions, and today I'll be bringing you another review of the releases for this month. So this will be the December 2016 edition for the release reviews, and I gotta say this month is actually really cool, especially for me being a Law Forces player and a Batman Forces player. So first of all, we'll get right into the first release. Alright, so the first release for this month isn't actually a character model, it's another template set. So this one is BMG template set 2. It contains a explosive template, which is round. I know the picture sort of makes it look like it's oval, but I think it's just on an angle. And then it comes with two light templates, so that will be to measure the distance that lampposts give out in the game. This is cool. I think it's a long time coming. This has been really needed for the game. And you can finally have a full set if you include template set 1, which I'm going to show you a picture of just so you can get an idea of both sets together. So here's templates. So this is the one that was released about 6 months ago as of the time of this recording, around the time that the Flash and Arrow book came out. It's the spray template and vehicle turn templates, so those expansive weapons, this is the template for that, and there is a little notch to line it up with your model. So before that, the second template set came out, all you had was one of the templates you need to play the game, and you'd either have to print out the explosive template from the back of the rulebook or have one custom made. So with both of these sets, now you have everything you need to play the game, plus a few extra things. Those light tokens or whatever templates aren't really needed, but it's nice to have them. And I am happy with this. It would have been nice if they had sort of like a movement key, so something that has all the typical movement distances on it. But this is pretty good. You have everything now, and the whole set's complete, so I am happy with this release. With that, we'll get into the first character model. So first up for this month's releases is Reaper. He's a really cool looking model. So he goes with the Black Mask crew, which is nice to see because it's nice to see them releasing stuff for crews that haven't really gotten too much lately. But I love this model. Like, he's got that classic Grim Reaper look, obviously the inspiration for him. The two scythes, he's covered in chains, old school body armor. It looks like he's wearing chainmail or something. So just a really crazy looking model. And he looks actually pretty large too. It might be just the angle they took the picture with him looking down, but he looks like he's going to be a pretty tanky size model. With that though, let's get right into his stat card and see what he's all about. Alright, so here he is. His name is Benjamin Gruner. His alias is Reaper. He's a sidekick for the Black Mask crew, as I said earlier. He is reputation 70. So fairly average for a solid sidekick like this guy. He is strength 4, which is average. Willpower 6, movement 2, attack 4, defense 4, endurance 7. So he's a little bit tanky, and the typical special 3. He is equipped with a sickle. It has a blood and a stun damage. It has the reach rule, so he can attack models within 3 centimeters of himself, and sharp, so he can reroll those 2 wound whirls. He is assassin 2, so what that means is if he kills the enemy opponent's boss or leader, his crew is awarded an additional 2 victory points. He has brutal, so he can reroll his collateral dice. He has combo with sickle, so that is for every 2 attacks made. Excuse me. For every 2 attacks made, he could gain an additional attack, which is really nice. So if you fully put all your willpower into attack on this guy, you can get 6 attacks out of him. And with that, sharp and brutal, he's going to be putting out quite a bit of damage, I think. He has Coward's Rewards. What that is if a model in base-to-base contact with him moves away from him, they have to take an agility roll or take another blood. That does cost 1 special to activate, though. So that's another really good one. It means that models are going to be more leery of trying to get away from him once they're locked in combat, just because, you know, they might have to take that additional damage. He has a tireless rule, so he can run with just a special dice instead of a move and a special. And I think that's really good on this guy because, uh, you know, if you just look at his stats, movement 2 makes him look like he's really slow. But in reality, if you can't combine that with his tireless trait and then movement 2, he's actually going to be able to get pretty far up the board, which is really nice. And finally, he has stealth, so enemy models within 20 centimeters, or sorry, he can only be seen within 20 centimeters, as opposed to the regular 30. I really like this guy. I think he's gonna see play, just because, you know, Black Mask players maybe are a little limited on faction specific models, and you know, they're finally getting this nice beefy sidekick to help out. And yeah, he's gonna be putting out damage. I think you're gonna see him try to be comboed up with someone who's more damage dealing, and he'll be sort of the mop up crew, especially with that assassin 2 rule. You know, you'll want to make sure he kills the leader just so he can get ahead on points. And you know, combo with sickle, he's going to be able to put out a lot of damage, and you know, put in those finishing blows on leaders and bosses to get those extra points. And again, you know, even as like an objective grabber and stuff, with the movement 2 and the tireless, he is going to go where he needs to be, and just a really all around solid model for the Black Mask crew. And with that, we'll get into the next character release for this month. Alright, next up for this month's releases is Mr. Freeze's Thugs Out 1. So we saw Mr. Freeze drop last month with his 4 model starter crew, and here's another add-on for that. So 2 more henchmen for his crew, really characterful models. You know, the one guy's rocking a shovel, so sort of continuing that winter theme. The other guy had a hockey stick, and then the other guy in this box has another freeze gun. So, you know, he's going to be a gun heavy crew, it looks like, with a lot of cold control, but we'll see that when we look at the stats. Nothing too much to say about these, you know, just typical henchmen. Nothing really stands out about them to me, except for like that shovel. It's pretty funny. So let's get looking at the first one, Mr. Snowy 4. Alright, so continuing the theme of snowy names, the Mr. Freeze starter had Snowy 1, 2, and 3. Now we have Snowy 4. He is the henchman rank for the Mr. Freeze crew. He comes in at 24 reputation. He's strength 5, so, you know, average henchman. Willpower 4, not the greatest. Movement 2, attack 2, defense 3, endurance 6, so he's a little bit more beefy than the other ones. His attack 2 really doesn't matter because he's carrying that gun, so that's pretty much all he's going to use. His weapon is Freeze Laser Mark II. It does 2 blood and a stun. Has a rate of fire of 1 and an ammo 3. It's a beam weapon that is short range, has the cold rule, and puts down ice templates. So I guess it's essentially like the Mr. Freeze version of a shotgun. He can move and still shoot because rate of fire 1 is not going to drop any lower. It's short range, so maybe not as useful. It has a cold rule, so it's knocking movement counters off of enemies it wounds, and it can put down an ice template, which is essentially like creating difficult terrain on the board. That weapon does cost him 300 funding, so I think he's still good with the crew in terms of not being overfunded. And for personal traits, he has hockey gear, so that just allows him to ignore the sharp rule when models attack him. Not too much to say about him, you know, just more filler for the crew. Reputation, I think, is halfway decent. I mean, this guy's probably not going to do too many great things, but combined with the rest of the crew, I think he's going to fit in just fine. So with that, we'll get into Snowy number 5. Alright, here he is, Snowy number 5. He is a henchman for the Mr. Freeze crew. He comes in at reputation 28. He is strength 5+, so not the greatest, although you'll see it's not too bad in a second. He is willpower 5, so about average for a henchman. He's movement 2, not too fast. He's attack 3, again not the greatest. Defense 3, about average for a henchman. Endurance 7 though, which is really high for a henchman, so it's really good. And then Special 3, which is typical. He's equipped with a shovel, so continuing that snow theme, he has a shovel. It does 2 stun damage. It's overwhelming, so overwhelming is enemy models are -1 to their dice rolls when trying to defend against his attacks. He has reach, so he can hit models within 3 centimeters, and the heavy rule, so his attacks are made at +1 strength. So essentially, he's strength 4 when attacking with his shovel, and that's fairly nice. Again, continuing the snowy theme, he has the hockey gear personal trait, so that allows him to ignore the sharp rule. He has order, so for 1 special counter, I believe he could arrange 2 dice on a friendly model's card. And then finally he has bluff. So bluff is spend a special, and if there's a enemy model within 10 centimeters of him, they are -1 to attack. So basically it just makes them easier to defend against when that model is making the attacks, if that makes sense. Again, not too much to say about him. He's just basically an average henchman. The endurance 7 is fairly nice, so maybe the use for him is to be more of an objective runner. He has the endurance to make it across the board, and hunker down next to objective when he gets there and sort of defend it with his shovel. Other than that, nice to see Mr. Freeze getting more releases so soon to really round out the crew. I believe with these 2 guys and the Mr. Freeze 4 character starter set that was released last month, his total reputation for the crew comes in at around 202, and I think like 1100 funding or something. I would have to double check that, but still enough room to be able to add in maybe one of the sidekicks that are available to Mr. Freeze, or a flavorful free agent who will complement the way this crew plays. Other than that, not much else to say about these guys, but both of them are just basic henchmen, continuing the theme of Mr. Freeze. So with that, we'll get into the next release for this month. Alright, here's what I'm really excited for. Being a law team player, this is just great. So it's Aaron Cash and the quick response team. So basically Aaron Cash from the video games, if you guys played the Arkham Knight games, he's one of the sort of main side characters in there. And then he comes with sort of like a SWAT team. They're not SWAT though, they're a quick response, so they do have slightly different rules and maybe not as high stats or with the special rules that the SWAT has, but they're sort of like an in-between between them and the cops. Again, I'm really excited for this. It's nice to see law forces getting a beef up, and these guys can also go with Green Arrow and the Batman crew. So with that, let's get looking at the first one in the bunch, Mr. Aaron Cash. So first up for the new Aaron Cash and quick response team pack is Mr. Aaron Cash himself. He is a sidekick for the law forces. He comes in at 55 reputation and 150 funding. He has average willpower 6 for a sidekick, strength 4+, so half decent. Movement 2, he's not the quickest on the board. Attack 4, fairly solid, especially once we look at his personal traits. He's defense 3, so average for a human level character, I guess. Endurance 6, so not the greatest, but not too bad either, and the typical special 3. He's equipped with a shotgun that does 2 blood and a stun, has a rate of fire of 1, 3 shots, and is a firearm and can shoot up to medium range. So 40 centimeter range on his gun, wounds on a 2+ typically, and rate of fire 1 means he can move before shooting and not have to worry about his rate of fire getting any more worse. For his personal traits, he has Affinity Batman, which is nice, so he can be taken in a Batman crew as long as Batman is the leader, and he'll be changed to a free agent rank instead of a sidekick. He has aversion Killer Croc, so he cannot be taken in a crew that has Killer Croc in it, and I guess that would just apply to people with the corrupt rule taking law forces in a organized crime crew. He has bulletproof vest, so he's a little bit defensible against shooting attacks, which would have to wound on a 4+ instead of a 2+. He has the claw special rule, so attacks his unarmed close combat attacks do a blood and a stun instead of just a stun. He has the hardened special rule, so that one does the first blood damage he takes each turn is changed into a stun instead. He has a lantern special rule, so kind of a, I don't know. I've never seen lantern used that well. Maybe some of you have used it to effect, but what lantern does is you spend a special, and around him in a 5 centimeter radius is illuminated, so he can light up enemy models for other people to shoot at, I guess. He has the searcher rule, so that one's actually pretty interesting. What that one does is at the beginning of the game, before you start everything, your opponent is -1 to his strategy points. And finally, he is unstoppable. So what that one does is his close combat attacks, you need to get 2 successful defense rolls instead of 1 to successfully stop one of his attacks. And combine that with his attack 4, he's actually quite good in close combat against, say, like, just regular henchmen and stuff. I wouldn't throw him up against someone like Titan Bane or Ra's al Ghul, because he's going to get his ass kicked. But, against henchmen, he's actually going to do pretty well, and they're going to have a hard time trying to shut down his close combat attacks. Combine that with, his hardened and bulletproof vest. He is sort of tanky. Defense 3 and Endurance 6 isn't the greatest, so you don't want to just throw him in the middle of like a bunch of enemies and hope for the best. But, if that enemy model player does get a few cheeky shots or close combat hits on him, he might be able to survive long enough to get away or, defend himself with either his shotgun or his claws. Really, there's not too much else to say about him. He's just sort of a fairly solid sidekick for the Law Crew. I think you're going to see him a lot in Law Crew. Maybe in Batman Crew as well. He has enough things going for him that you might want to take him instead of maybe one of the SWAT guys or even one of the new quick response team guys, which we'll be looking at right now. So first up in the 4-character set is L. Lawrence. He's a quick response team 1. He's a henchman for the Batman Law Forces and Green Arrow crews. Really happy to see all 3 of those crews getting some love. Mainly the Law Forces and Green Arrow, which, sometimes are lacking in choices and new releases. So it's good to see them getting some extra models for their crews. Comes in at 27 reputation with 100 funding. Willpower 5, so about average for, henchman level people. Strength 5, not the greatest, but it is mitigated a little bit with his weapons once we get into that part. Movement 2, so not too fast. Attack 3, defense 3, again average for sort of henchman level humans. Endurance 5, so not great, but not shit either. And then the typical special 3. He has a riot gun, so that is 2 stun damage with a rate of fire 2, 3 ammo, mechanical, and crit. So the cool thing about this is, off the bat, it looks like a shotgun, but it actually has unlimited range. It is only doing stun damage, but if you're taking this in a Law Crew, you're probably going to have enough arrest going around to be able to mop up anyone this guy takes out. The crit double stun is really awesome, so potentially you can put out 6 stun damage if you get a really lucky shot off. But other than that, typical guy. And then he has an extendable baton, so I think this is the first time we've seen this item on a character, as well as the riot gun, to be honest to you. But this one does 2 stun damage. It has reach and heavy, so that mitigates his strength 5 a bit. So his close combat attacks are actually coming in at strength 4, unless the opponent is wearing football gear, but that's not too common. Yeah, so he's half decent in close combat, I guess, because of that weapon. And again, the stun damage isn't that big of a deal because there should be enough arrest going around to really mitigate anyone he knocks out from getting back up. For personal traits, he has the arrest rule, so there you go. He can potentially knock out a model and then arrest him himself. And then he has bulletproof vest, so he's a little bit more survivable against shooting attacks. Again, really nice addition to all three of the crews that he can go with, and I guess four if you include chaining him into organized crime with the corrupt rule. But yeah, nice to see more coming out for these crews, and just a fairly solid 27-point henchman. Not much else to say about him. So we'll get. So next up for the quick response team is quick response team number 2. His name is Salvador. He's a henchman again for the Batman Law and Green Arrow crews. Comes in at reputation 33 with 350 funding. He's strength 5, again mitigated by his extendable baton. Willpower 5, so again average. Movement 2, attack and defense 3, endurance 5, so again all average for a human level cop character, and special 3. We've already gone over the extendable baton, so we won't do that again. But he does have a different gun this time. He has the custom carbine. So what that does is a single blood damage. It has a rate of fire of 5 though, 2 ammo, and for special rules it has the firearm rule, medium range, silencers, so enemy models with the dodge special rule actually cannot use their dodge against his range attacks, and assault 3. So if he does decide to move before shooting, instead of dropping to rate of fire 1, he drops to rate of fire 3 instead. Again, he's equipped with a bulletproof vest, and he has the street guy special rule, so he can crouch for free. Not too much to say about this guy. I mean, the silencer on his gun is pretty nice, and for a crew like the Law and Green Arrow and Batman that I don't think have a lot of access to silencers, it's nice to be able to mitigate acrobats with that super powerful dodge with his weapon. It is only putting out 1 blood a hit, but it's better than putting out stuns, I guess. I haven't actually used carbines before, so I'm probably going to do some playtesting with this guy once I get my hands on him to see how effective it is. I actually haven't even seen too many carbines used against me, so I don't know. If any of you guys have experience with this weapon, let me know what you think of it. Do you think it's any good? I'm kind of leaning towards no, just because it's not putting out reliably as much damage as, say, the miniguns or the machine guns that are available to like SWAT and Brendan, or even assault rifles that are putting out 3 damage. And once you look at the next quick response person, I think you're gonna find that she's probably a lot better than this guy. But again, let me know what you guys think of him. I'm sort of on the fence. Yeah, so let's look at the next one. Last up for the quick response pack is Jeanette Vassil. She's quick response team 3. She is again a henchman for Batman Law and Green Arrow. She comes in at reputation 35. She has 400 funding, willpower 5, strength 5, movement 2, attack 3, defense 3, endurance 5, and special 3. So the exact same as the other 3 quick response team people. Not shit, but not great in terms of henchmen. They're all about average. Now her weapon is where she really shines. She has the precision rifle, which does 2 blood and a stun, has rate of fire 2, 2 ammo, and has the firearm rule. So essentially like a sniper rifle without the scope or anything, but really solid. You're potentially able to put out 6 damage a turn, maybe 7 if you get that crit off as well. And having 2 shots means she's going to be able to shoot most of the game once you look at her other attacks. She also has AP ammo, so I assume that stands for armor piercing. That does 3 blood damage. It has a rate of fire 2, 1 shot. As a firearm rule, you need to aim with it. It is anti-tank, so it ignores bulletproof vests and damages armor better, like vehicles. And it's 1 use only, so you can only use this once per game. You can't go to an ammo box and pick up more ammo for this. You can only use it once. But if you're not shooting at vehicles and there's some character you want to shoot at instead, being able to potentially put out 6 blood damage is really devastating. You can one-shot most henchmen and put a serious hurt on a lot of the leader level characters. Next up, she has AM ammo. I don't know what that stands for. It does 2 blood damage, has rate of fire 2, ammo 1. It's firearm, medium range, again only 1 use only, and enervating 3. So that's really devastating if you see some big bad guy coming at you and you nail him with that. It's not on a crit, it's just it happens. So next turn they are -3 willpower. It could really shut down what, you know, a big beefy character is going to be able to do the following turn, and being able to put out, potentially 4 blood onto a guy isn't anything to scoff at either. For her personal traits, she has bulletproof vest, you know, as do they all. She has a radio, so she is able to re-roll her Let's Go rolls, which is good. If I guess if you combine that with that lantern that I said was situational, and then she has tracking. So what that is, at the end of the round, um, you spend 2 special counters, and she is able to move 2d6. This is like considered a free movement, so it's extra on top of anything. So this is sort of like that sniper rule where they never shoot from the same place twice. They'll take their shot and then relocate. This is, I guess, the way to show that off. And I think she's just crazy solid, especially in a law force. It really makes guys like Gordon, with his ability to put down light templates onto the board. This makes him that much more viable as a leader, because combine that with her and say like the riot shotgun guy and Alpha, you got a really solid like long range shooting team. Whereas before, maybe he wasn't the greatest choice to take. And I think she's going to see use in all 3 of the crews she can go in. So with that, last up, we'll get with, I guess, the big release for this month, which will be the new Batman and Robin, the Dynamic Duo. So here we are, another Batman for the Batman crew, this time with Robin. And first thing I gotta say is, holy shit, these models are super nice. So much character in them. Obviously inspired by sort of like the 70s and 80s comic book version, which is really nice. I like to see more of the comic book stuff creeping into the game as opposed to inspired by one of the movies or the Arkham games. Not that those are bad, but I'm a big fan of the comics, so seeing models like this coming into the game is just fucking beautiful. Um, Again, the poses, the smug look on Dick Grayson's face, and Batman's stern, like overbearing look. It just classic fucking models. I know I'm gushing a bit, but like I really love this 2-pack. I will probably pick it up eventually for my crew, although I think that quick response team is gonna be first on the buy list. But again, yeah, like just great models. Lots of character, lots of also just ability to paint Batman in different color schemes. If you want to go with a more like black on black scheme with that logo on his chest, you can almost do like the 80s movie version of Batman by painting him up like that. Um, look like a ton of fun to paint. Robin's in that sort of old school 60s uh, movie TV show look. He's got the little booty shorts and whatever, but again, just classic models. And it is nice to see Dick Grayson finally coming out as a his Robin version. We have him in Nightwing, but we don't have a Dick Grayson Robin yet, so it's cool to be able to now finally play the classic Batman and Robin into the Batman Miniatures game. So with that, we'll get into looking at their stat cards. First up will be Robin. Alright, so first up in the 2-pack is Dick Grayson. He is Robin the Boy Wonder. He's a sidekick for the Batman crew. He has 65 reputation and 100 funding. He's strength 5 plus, willpower 6. He's movement 4, attack 3, defense 5, which is really good, endurance 4, and special 3. So if he gets hit, he's probably gonna die, but he does have defense 5, so he is a little bit more defendable than usual. Attack 3, not the greatest. And willpower 6, so he can get probably a lot done. Movement 4, really solid on him. I guess he's sort of like a mixed bag. He has really good stats for a sidekick, and then he has some sort of crappy stats for a sidekick. Attack 3, not the greatest. Endurance 4, like, Jesus, I hope he doesn't get hit. But other than that, solid. Batlings, is his weapon. It does 2 stun damage, the arrow throwing weapon. It's rate of fire 2, ammo 2, throwing, and short range. For his personal traits, and he has a ton of them, he has Acrobat, which is the Batman Miniatures game God rule. So he gets all the good things out of that, which is access to dodge and movement 12 centimeters, and can move over small obstacles without penalty and all that goodness. He has the Agile rule. So if he is about to take fall damage, you could roll an agility die or take an agility test, and if you pass, he ignores the knockdown and the damage. He has a back claw, so he's able to keep up with Batman. You know, being able to move the 30 centimeters up or down is solid. He has combat flip, so that's a new rule that we're seeing in, I think, first introduced in the Suicide Squad box. What that does is you spend a special counter, and if you're in base contact with an enemy model, you can move up to 5 centimeters away from them in any direction. So you can actually, I guess, fudge it a bit, and if you go 5 centimeters away from the opposite side of the model you're on, you can almost get like 8 centimeters out of this ability, which is kind of cool. Keeps him from getting outnumbered and stuff if he's going to be taking on a lot of enemies. He has Disarray, so for 2 special, he can move 2 action counters on an enemy model within 20 centimeters, I believe. He has Escape Artist, so he's immune to the arrest rule. He has Reflexes, which is really crazy on him. So what Reflexes does is you can re-roll your agility rolls. So good luck shooting him. You know, with the defense 5 and then movement 4, and you can re-roll your dodges. Yeah, you're not going to hit him. And then small, so normally that would make him movement 8 and +1 to his ping rolls, but the Acrobat rule actually supersedes the small rule for movement, so he's still movement 12, but now he gets +1 to his ping rolls. For his special traits, he has the Sidekick, so this character can only be hired if Batman Modern Age, which is the other model in this 2-pack, he can only be taken if he's leading the crew. While the Batman is in play, this character gains +1 to his strength, so he's actually strength 4. If the Batman is removed as a casualty, though, this character will suffer -1 willpower, so he becomes weaker and loses that strength bonus. So you kind of don't want to run him in. I think you're going to see him more as like an objective grabber, but again, there's more bonuses going on. So he's the Boy Wonder. So enemy characters cannot re-roll 2-hit rolls against this character due to the handy rule. Again, paired with his ability to just dodge like crazy, you know, he's actually super defensible even though he's defense 4. So if you get the hits through, you know, he's going down super quick, but it's going to be hard to get those hits through to begin with. And finally, he's a Teen Titan founder. So this character can be hired in a Teen Titan team, and you just ignore the clause for having to take him as a sidekick for Batman. If he is taken in the Teen Titans, he gains +1 to his willpower and +1 to his strength and reinforced gloves. So basically making him a better leader and showing off his traits as the leader of the Teen Titans. Again, really cool to see him. A ton of flavor on this guy. You know, all the different special traits that they gave him, plus combined with just the huge list of personal traits he has. He is, I think, going to be effective. You just got to be careful with how you use him. Again, he's super defense. He's kind of tanky, but if those hits get through, like, he's donezo. And you know, he's not putting out too much damage, but you know, as a support piece for Batman or just rushing off to get some objective points, you know, he's super solid in that regard. So finally, for this month's releases, we're going to look at the new Batman. Last up in the Dynamic Duo 2-pack is Bruce Wayne. So he is Batman Modern Age. He's a leader for the Batman crew. He comes in at 100 reputation. His stats are Strength 3+, Willpower 7, Movement 3, attack and defense 5, so pretty solid there. Endurance 8, so pretty good for a leader. And the typical special 3. He's equipped with batlings that do 2 stun apiece. They have a rate of fire 2. He has 2 shots for that, and they are a throwing and short range weapon. His personal traits are really interesting, actually. He has acrobat, which is the first time we've seen a Batman with that trait. Paired with his movement 3, not the greatest, but he has all the other benefits for having acrobat. He has the bat cape, so he can drop from a height and spend a special counter and not suffer any of the effects. He has the bat claw, which allows him to get around. He has detective, which is pretty standard on him. Martial artist, so that defense 5 is actually really solid because he doesn't have to worry about being outnumbered in close combat. Reinforced gloves, giving his close combat attacks 2 stun apiece. And he has sneak attack paired with stealth. So sneak attack is if he begins his activation outside of view from a model that he wants to attack, he can spend a special, and then all of his close combat attacks are unable to be blocked by that model. The stealth means that he can only be seen within 20 centimeters as opposed to the regular 30. Fairly good quality stats or traits on this guy. For his special traits, he has a rule called the Dynamic Duo. This is a new one. If this character stays within 20 centimeters of the boy Robin, this character can activate immediately after the activation of Robin Boy Wonder. So basically, it's like a Let's Go that happens for free, and it's only with this Batman if he's paired with the Boy Wonder. Really cool because you can set up sort of some good scenarios where, say, Robin goes in first, tries to throw some hits on an enemy model, and then Batman activates immediately after and can potentially, outnumber that model and help out with taking them down. The other rule he has is assistance. This is also a new one. While a friendly Robin the Boy Wonder is in play, this character will gain +1 to his willpower. If the friendly Robin Boy Wonder is removed as a casualty, this character will gain +1 strength. So, really cool. So if Robin's alive, his willpower is 8, which is typical for Batman. Unfortunately, if Robin dies, though, he loses that willpower, but then gains +1 to his strength. So I guess he rages out or something, pushing his strength up to 2+, which is pretty crazy on this delivery system. The acrobat and the bat claw means he's going to be able to go where he wants. Martial artist means he doesn't have to worry about getting outnumbered by a bunch of mooks. And attack 5 paired with a strength 2 is pretty friggin' crazy. 3 if Robin's still alive. One thing to worry about though is he doesn't have bat armor, which is really helpful at keeping Batman alive. Hopefully this model can get away with his defense 5 and having acrobat to dodge shots from guns and stuff. Again, really cool to see. It's nice to see that the Batman and the Robin will play off each other, so they're both alive. They both get fairly decent buffs, and being able to chain activations with Robin and Batman, you can get some really cool things happening on the board. But I guess that's all there is to say about this month's releases. Quite a good mixed bag of stuff coming out. You got a little bit of everything for a bunch of crews. I think the real winners here are the Batman crew, as usual. We have that quick response team pack plus the dynamic duo. And it's just really cool. I think you can almost do a full crew if you buy just the dynamic duo and that quick response team. I think it comes in around 303 reps. So you just need something else to fill it out. But, that's a good start for a crew, and all of it seems solid at the moment. Other than that, let me know what you guys think of this month's recording or this month's releases. A lot of my opinions are just based on sort of what I can see on the cards, and I don't have any experience with these models yet, obviously. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you want to see more of these, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching, guys.